The
is the
Colombian exchange
Colombian
was just the beginning.
exchange.
This
This is a
led
beautiful
to
image
the
that
slave trade
represents
of American
Christopher
Indians,
Columbus meeting
specifically
the American
the
Indians of
Caribs,
Hispaniola,
or the Indian people
Haiti,
known as the
Cuba,
Caribs in South and
and
Central
Jamaica.
America, as well as the West Antilles, aka the Caribbean. Now,
Carib,
contrary to popular belief, American Indians, or the Carib people, for one, are not cannibals and never were cannibals. However, the warlike nature is
how they maintain the dominating force in the Lesser Antilles, the Caribbean Sea. Now, let this be known, the Carib people are not cannibals and never were. However, the proper name of the island Carib is the Garifuna. Now, the Garifuna people who they were then able to force the Arawak tribe, their sister tribe, further up the Antilles. So the Arawak tribe controlled the upper Antilles, Cuba, Jamaica, DR, etc. And the Carib people, aka the Garifuna people, controlled the Lesser Antilles up until the Spanish arrival.
Indigenous people from the islands that want to know their ancestry and where their ancient ancestors come from, let's get into it. The indigenous Caribbeans today have ancestry tracing back to the Taino, an indigenous people of the region who are considered descendants of the Arawak. Let's keep going. Now first, let's break down the Arawak people, are believed to have originated in Colombia or Venezuela. Let's keep going. First, we go through St. Augustine culture, which is ancient Colombia, where the Arawak come from. Let's keep going. Now, this is a statue in ancient Colombia. You see the teeth? The jaguar, the coat of the jaguar. The coat of the jaguar means the ancestry of ancient Colombians, which are Arawak people, are the Olmec culture. Let's keep going. You see what color these people are? Copper colored. Let's keep going. Now, let's keep going. This is the Arawak Birdman. Just like the Birdman of the ancient indigenous American, just like the Birdman of the Mound Builders. Let's keep going. Now, the rest of their ancestors come from ancient Venezuela. Let's keep going. Ancient Venezuela, 4,000-year-old petroglyphs on the wall in Venezuela. You see the X? You see the X? Let me show y'all where they come from. Now, the X symbol of the Taino. The Olmecs also use the X for 4 cardinal directions, and they also use the X to mark the center of the Milky Way. This is American culture. Let's keep going. Now, the Taino also have a bird man in their ancient artifacts. Let's keep going. So now, the Taino bird man, just like ancient American Indians, just like ancient mound builders, they got the same symbolism. These people who are in the islands today descend from the same people of America with the same teachings in agriculture. Taino and Arawak went to the islands, and those are the indigenous people of the islands of Haiti and Jamaica and things like that. Roll the corn. We know the truth.
entire black race in America is playing into one big ass Masonic ritual. So you niggas gotta wake up. All that, the word pseudo should be buried, period. This shit is real. They not playing. These motherfuckers is doing spells, they're doing rituals, they in Hollywood conjuring shit up, even when you deal with Hollywood. Hollywood comes from the holly tree. It's a tree that's native to Europe called the holly tree. And when you burn it, it makes you hallucinate. So when we talk about Harry Potter, the magic wand, it was made out of Hollywood. So Hollywood helps to put these actors and these rappers out, like Brother Phil said, sold you out, to help you play into this giant Masonic ass Monopoly game. So when we talking about black liberation and revolution, motherfucker, Martin Luther King is dead. He ain't gonna help you do that. Okay? Let's just be real. We talking about today. You need to get with some up-to-date science so that we can fight back, not just physically, but spiritually. Because you're dealing with somebody who has learned you better than you because he made you forget who the fuck you are. I don't fuck if you got
and show you how big the lie is. There's so many layers to the lie, right? I mean, there's accounts. We got historic accounts of Allion, right? Coming from Haiti, right? Right here. Haiti right over here. The Caribbean and going all the way up here. South Carolina where it says Tierra de Allion. Look at this map. Tierra de Allion. All right? So, I mean, there's a whole history we don't know. Just wanted to cover that, all right? So we can continue.
The English found what they could not accomplish with the torch and the gun. They could accomplish with the stroke of the pen. So that's why they mislabeled our people racially in the records more and more as time went on, until eventually there was no Indian presence in the records. There was never that designation. You were identified as mulatto, musty, or any of those other terms rather than Indian.
Sometimes it got to the point where you were even afraid to say that you were Indian. And you told your children not to because it was safer. And so there were just all these different ways of erasing Native people as well as African American people from the cultural landscapes.
At one point in time, it was a bad thing to even say you were Native American. Some people had to lie on their birth certificates and state that they were either Black or that they were white. So that definitely had an effect on Native American people.
Native people have become the invisible minority here, particularly in the Northeast. The census takers, who were generally white males, made their decision about who was Indian and who was not Indian. And if you did not look Indian, then you didn't get on the census as being Indian. And so those records, whether it was talking about slavery, whether it was talking about indentured servants, you know, it's like putting a 50 million piece puzzle together.
Governor Northam made a reference to the history of slavery in the Commonwealth during his CBS interview, but he didn't call the first Africans to land on Virginia's shores slaves. Take a listen.
Well, it has been a difficult week. And, you know, if you look at Virginia's history, we're now at the 400-year anniversary. Just 90 miles from here, in 1619, the first indentured servants from Africa landed on our shores in Old Point Comfort, what we call now Fort Monroe. And while in 1619, the first indentured servant, the first indentured servant, the first indentured servant, the first indentured servant.
Did comments like that affect his support among Virginians?
So this article is called The Illegal Beginning of American Negro Slavery. Well, it's a magazine, right? This magazine is written from the American Bar Association, volume number 56. This was from January 1970, pages 45 to 49. Nevertheless, those first black arrivals at Jamestown were not enslaved immediately. Rather, they were assimilated into that singular institution known as indentured servitude for a term of years, improvised by the Virginia Company from the child labor laws of Elizabethan England. From 1607 to 1618, the company in London labored to recruit venturesome souls to ship over, but the Jamestown foothold remained tenuous. In 1618, the impoverished company finally hit on a simple method to assure a growing volume of new colonists, privately indentured servants. Under this arrangement, a planter in Virginia would guarantee payment of passage of a new colonist. The recruit would sign an indenture in London, becoming on arrival at Jamestown the indentured servant of the planter for a specific term such as 7 years. The concept of indentured servants in Virginia and the other colonies was thus borrowed from the English poor laws. On arrival at Jamestown, the recruits would be auctioned off to the highest bidder for a specified term by the captain at dockside. This rapidly became the common method of immigration. The rule soon arose in Jamestown and other colonial ports that any person without fare on arrival would simply be auctioned at dockside into indentured servitude. This system, which was practical and economical and legal by custom and usage, was probably considered fair by all concerned, given the precedents for indentured labor in England. All right, so let's continue. It says here, such was the situation when the first 20 Negroes arrived in 1619 as part of a prize taken by piracy from a Spanish ship in the Indies. They were simply indentured for their passage. Again, these first Negroes, right, so-called Negroes, the ones that they tell us were the first African slaves, they were actually taken by piracy from a Spanish ship in the Indies or the Caribbean. And I told you they were coming from Veracruz.
Yeah, so they were pirated off the coast of Veracruz, not Africa. All right, and we're going to end it right here. I just wanted to remind you of this past information. We've gone over this in more detail in past videos, but I just wanted to remind you again. Do you guys see how this is a lie? This is a myth. First of all, there's 100 years, almost 100 years previous, there's a claim that they already had brought so-called blacks. Those might be Indians. Those might be black indentured servants from Europe. They're not Africans. You saw there's none to prove they were Africans. So that already had debunked the 1619 myth. And on top of that, when you come to learn about the 1619 so-called Negroes, you actually realize they actually were taken from a Spanish ship that was off the coast of Veracruz, Mexico. That ship was coming from South America, and previous to that, from Lisbon, Portugal. It never went to Africa. I want to see the primary source proving these were Africans. They weren't. And they were, in fact, indentured servants. They had contracts. They were freed eventually. They weren't chattel for life. That's a myth, especially in 1619. All right. Again, this was the myth of 1619. I hope you guys see. It's really silly to go ahead and back up that whole false narrative, that whole false history of 1619. There was so-called Negroes or so-called black Indians here since creation. So it wouldn't be the first time so-called Negroes were brought. So that's a whole statement that's missing so much context, all right? It's a whole myth. It has been debunked. I hope you guys see that it's bigger than complexion back then, especially in 1619 and 1520s in colonial times. They have whitewashed history, and they have reclassified people, turned them into so-called Africans, whether it's American Indians or Black Europeans. Appreciate you guys tuning in all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed the little review of this information, especially the new people who probably never heard it before. Thank you for sticking around all the way to the end. Appreciate you taking the time to do that. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Again, this has been debunked. It's the myth of 1619. The myth of 1619.
She talking cash money shit about Trump, right? She talking cash money shit about Donald Trump, And in actuality, truth be told, when Donald Trump was president the first time around, he actually granted federal tribal recognition to indigenous tribes. He's also promised to do it again for the Lumbee tribe. But back in like 2020, I think it was, or it was a long time ago. It was a long time ago. Here, let me see. Which tribe did Trump grant recognition to? Hey, I didn't hear about Joe Biden giving any Indians no recognition, no reparations. But Trump, let's see what he did back in the day. See, he just said he would do it again with the Lumbee tribe, which is why everything is more recently talking about the Lumbee Indians. But back in 2000, yeah, see, he signed 3 bills. That's why you got to do some fact checking around here, okay? Got to do some fact checking. Let's see what these bills were about. This has been a long journey. We've worked tirelessly. Tribal Council said President Trump's relationship with the Native American has been difficult. What was the name of? Come on, y'all. Y'all know me as the king of receipts. I gotta find the receipt. But they keep talking about the Lumbee tribe. That's a more recent one, he said. Let me see. President signs Virginia Tribes Recognition Bill. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. So what Trump did is he signed a law that gave federal recognition to the Chickahominy, the Eastern Chickahominy, the Upper Mattapony, and the Rappahannock, the Monacan, and the Nasaman. These tribes received official recognition from the Commonwealth of Virginia, but had faced barriers preventing them from receiving federal recognition. Now that they've got federal recognition, they can get their tribe's legal standing in order and establish a relationship with the U.S. government, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, this passed in 2017 with unanimous consent through Senate. And in January 11, 2018, I'm not sure if this is the date, but either way, shortly thereafter, President Trump signed the legislation into law. So yeah, it's interesting how that Indian girl is Dick Red in the Democrats when I haven't heard about any Democratic president doing anything for Indians. If we just gonna call a spade. And if we look into the history of reclassification and chattel slavery, it was the Democrats that were the slave masters. It was the Republicans that were freeing them. So yeah, truth is much, much stranger than fiction as far as that is concerned. Let's get on into it.
Peace, family. We back at it again. G's and peace. Soon enough, I just hope and pray that the family wake the fuck up to the truth. You dig? But you know what? Until then, that's what the fuck we here for. You dig? To knock some goddamn sense into our people. Now, boom. To address what Shorty's saying right now, or to be honest, I don't even know this is a girl. I just know the profile picture is a feminine picture. But anyway, so that's what Native Americans / American Indians are to you. Asians? No. To be clear, Native Americans and American Indians are not the same thing. American Indians is a term that existed much longer and referred directly to the first Americans or the original inhabitants, copper-colored, melanated inhabitants that was first found here by the Europeans, and then later the term referred to Europeans born here in the Americas. And that's straight from the Webster Dictionary, 1842. Now, as for American Indians again are not Asians. American Indians are the only people recorded in history to have been reclassified several times, and not one time was any of those classifications the term Native American. Now, American Indians have only ever been reclassified as Negro, colored, American, Negro, colored, black. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hold on. Yeah, I should have.